Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Quick Slants with Bethel University head football coach Steve Johnson. Quick Slants is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the Bethel coach questions about the Royals, football or sports in general, or just seek the coach's wisdom about life or whatever may be going on out there. This week, the coach discusses last week's loss against St. John's. He discusses the final game of the season against Augsburg this week, and he shares his insights on both the Bulls and the Blackhawks, among other things this week. So let's get right to Quick Slants. So let's welcome back Coach Johnson this week. Coach, first of all, let's begin with team updates and injuries with you.
Injuries, just the obvious one where we just have Trey Anderson's our quarterback, and, a guy that, blew his knee is, going into his senior year, and he was a highly touted player in the Twin Cities, and blew his knee in camp. And our whole community, just because we know him and his family and stuff, we were just grieving, and he handled it like a champ. And just a heartbreak that you don't get to play your senior year because of his knee. And then we end up getting him here and rejoicing in that. And then he's just really a super good player. And then he was playing in the game in the middle of the first quarter, and we had a pretty specific game plan with him in mind, and he tears his other knee up, and so that's pretty sad, yeah. And he's just about the sweetest guy. He's a tough sucker, but he's just about the sweetest guy ever, and it's just like you think, man, how does that happen to that guy, and so we're just kind of hugging him, and there's tears, and there's power in his, he says, well, whatever God's got for me, it's good, and he's just, so there's a faith piece and a toughness piece and a grateful piece in the midst of, kind of crappy situation. And so it's like, that's what I talk about these, I'm 59 years old, and I want to be like this 18-year-old when I grow up. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At the injury that where it's at, is that likely that he would be ready to start next season for you?
Yeah, he's got a fight. I think that one of the things that he's got just his, he's got a little bit of a heart broken, but, if anybody's ever had to come back from an ACL, to live regular life, you don't need the ACL thing, but if you want to be an athlete and you're a good one, it's a pretty big deal, because the rehab is ridiculous to get it to the place where, and it's a 7-month thing where it's not, it's an he just he just did it. So, as an 18-year-old, you don't map it out that way. As an 18-year-old, I'm going to spend my year rehabbing my right knee, and it hurts, and I can't play like I like to play, because he's a play guy, playful guy. And so as a 19-year-old, I'm going to do the same thing to the other knee. Spend the year, So, anyway.
That's really sad, but he's a tough guy, for sure, like you said.
Yeah, it's a neat thing.
Looking back at last week's game, let's start with a tough loss against St. John's, but one where your defense played exceptionally well. You have to feel pretty good about how you battled, especially holding Sam Sura to 123 yards on 35 carries.
Yeah, I think that there's a real our defense. You can't, when you lose a game 21-0, you kind of can blame the offense. And I'm not saying that's what's going on, but defensively we played phenomenal. But we've got to get off the field on third down, and the reason for that isn't just the obvious. It's not just about the points, but when an offense gets first downs, they get some rhythm going, and we just didn't get the ball, and the Johnnies were able to hold it, and Sam Sura is a heck of a back, but we have a few backs that could get 120 yards on 35 carries, and so that's nothing against Sam, but I am proud of our defense in that deal, but we've got to make some plays on those third downs, and we need to make those plays on offense in the same way, because you get to that 3rd and 4 and you don't make a play, and those are tough situations, and then so the Johnnies were able to control the game, way more than we would want them to, and that was a discouraging part in the game. And then we had a punt blocked, and they did a great job on that. They scouted something, and that was totally my fault on that, where I didn't prepare our guys right for something that the Johnnies saw that I didn't keep track of. I was busy watching the other guys on that deal, and so that hurt us that they got some points there. And then we had a couple misfortune. We had a couple unfortunate things where the official felt like Marshall Klitsky's knee touched when he was catching a ball on a kickoff, and then we had felt like we had probably a first down on their 3-yard line, and they ended up with the ball, but I'm pretty sure we had that, and he was down, and the guy took it later, but it didn't work that way.
Philip Peterson played really well for you on defense this past weekend. You have to really feel pleased with the way that he's been a force for you this season.
Phil is, I call him Jack Bauer, and he probably doesn't appreciate it, but he just, like everybody else, rolls their eyes when I'm talking. But Phil is just a tremendous, he's a tremendous person. He's a serious guy, not in a not funny way, because he's funny and he's fun, and he's a non-judgmental, tough guy who he can just play, and he's disciplined. He does all the things. Coach Fraziot's a crazy coach, and he's a crazy teacher, and he gives them these things, and Phil follows all those things. And it's kind of funny, when we first got Phil, coach would be on him about stuff, and he'd make a play, and he didn't really do it the way we're trying to teach him, and we were kind of yelling at him but giggling, and now he just does everything really right and really well, and it's because he has the ability to learn. I don't know what it is, but he's just a great leader for our team. He's a strong influence. He's a majorly strong God guy. He's he's praying over Trey's knee after the deal, and there's a lot of people that are thinking between Phil and the Holy Spirit that he's going to be good. You know what I mean? And we know it's all going to be good, and we believe that's all true. But it's that kind of guy. He's just I'm really proud of him. And football's just one of the pieces.
Now, heading into this week's game, you take on Augsburg, who had a tremendously negative impact on your playoff chances from last season. And I know that it was kind of a hard blow for you. So I know you take every game seriously, and you put everything into the game. But is there something a little extra in you that really wants this one, do you think?
That wasn't really about, that disappointment. It could have been anybody. Last year we had a game where they're an amazing offensive team, and Arden Scott is he's a great athlete, and not just, he's a great football player. He can run the ball, he can throw like nobody's business on the run, and Augsburg, they're just a lot of tough kids, and they play loose and going. And then what was really the big deal was that the field last year was just, a sheet of ice, and our grounds guys did an amazing job to get it ready, and then, nobody could predict that it would snow, and, it was really cold, and it was snowing, so the whole thing became icy, and, so it really, I answer your question, it's not really about Augsburg at the time. I want to, we couldn't say Augsburg at our house till March, but we really try to not be that way. One of the fun things about this route is this this game. I was just in a little devotions I was having this morning. And it was kind of like when you think you know everything, when you're so dogmatic that you know everything, you don't let anything in, and so you don't grow very much. And kind of the mystery even of our faith, sometimes Christians are, and this is it, and I won't listen to anything else, and what it does is make your Christianity exclusive to you and your little world, and I think our God's bigger than that. And so that was the point of that thing. But I was thinking about this, is that when there's mystery, as in who's going to win and how it's going to go, and it's way more fun. You know what I mean? And so Augsburg is way more fun, and maybe one of the reasons, maybe I need to learn this, is that one of the reasons that a 62-61 loss last year to those guys, that would be a blast if we didn't lose the conference championship, the playoff deal, ranking, all these things. We just lost so much that we couldn't find any joy in that crazy game. You know what I mean? And that's not Augsburg's fault. You know what I mean? So, a little philosophy there for you.
Interesting. Excellent.
Yeah.
This is the last game for many of your seniors, for all of your seniors actually, but for some of your players here. So, you find that it's an emotional week for them heading into this?
There's no doubt about it. It's an emotional week for me, for our coaches. We try not to ignore it and not talk about it, but we also, we aren't, we don't not talk about it, but we don't, you can feel it, and in fact, because I've been here so long, but even doing this so long, my wife, kind of a week and a half early, she just starts praying for me, and she's a little nicer to me, because it does, there's a little piece of you leaves, and it's a hard thing, because these kids have, they've put so much in. I've put so much, we've all put a lot into one another, and there's been great things and tough things, but we really love each other, and so it's a hard thing. And they don't ever leave our program, because they've built stuff and legacy, but it's not going to be the same, and that is it's a grieving thing and we talk about it as being a great thing, because if it wasn't a good experience and it wasn't something that was a huge piece of your life, it would be easy to quit, be easy to have it over, and it's not. So those guys there, it's almost devastating. It's close to death, and so it's hard, but it's good. You know what I mean? It's that good hard thing,
But this is obviously a very emotional week for you personally. If you wouldn't mind sharing, what is this week like for you? What do you try to do to keep the routine going while still appreciating where it's at?
Well, that's the thing that I really feel like I don't want to, we have a high thing is authenticity, you know what I mean? And we wanted no bull in your schoolwork, no bull in your football, no bull in your relationship with the Lord, each other. And so we don't want to, and so when we're talking about, if we're going to be week to week guys, we can't be week to week guys until this, you know what I mean? And so we've got to stay as routine as we can. And then, we've kind of had some traditions off and on, and, really the playoffs, because I'm looking up at the board here, we've had like a whole lot of playoff opportunities. And what's really cool about that is you don't know when the end is, and it's like, it's a little gravy and it's a little extra. So, I think a little bit more now that we know we're done on Saturday, there's a little more finality to that, and I don't want to ignore that, and I want to celebrate that with the guys, but we just want to play, pretend it's the third game in some ways, and understand that it's the last game in some other ways. So there's not really a formula, and I don't want there to be, I don't want to get this is how we do it. Monday, we always have kind of a time where we get together, we kind of wrap some things up, and we have to do some logistical things, and then we just pray over the seniors, and it's really a cool time. So, but that's about it. But that would be, if we made it all the way to the finals, that's what we'd do too. So I like playing longer, so I don't have to do real stuff.
I bet. Yeah. Do you find that there's a kind of a challenge that you want to give your seniors as much time to play on that last week, but you also want to try to give some of your younger guys an opportunity to get on the field?
Yeah, we're going to try to win. We really, that's the place where I just don't feel like, let's just let's have all the seniors play and see what happens. And that's not who we are really ever. I think there's 40 games. In a young person, you're guaranteed 40 games if you don't get hurt or anything else, and you're not even starting, So it's like we're gonna put the best player at the best spot. And of course, we're going to try to get some guys in some plays that we can't, so a little bit of a blend of both, but way more, we're just, this is what's next, so.
You talked about Eric Scott, just a dynamic quarterback. The guy can just do it all. So how do you defend against him? What do you try to build against to try to stop him?
I think the best thing we can do is have him graduate. That's the only people that I've seen stop him. I don't think you can stop him. Even like Sam Sura, you have a chance. He didn't hurt us. Now you can't say he didn't hurt us, because if we're doing what it needs to be taken here, we made Nick Martin, their quarterback, a little better, in the process. And so those are the things. And that's what Arton does so well, is that he just makes all the guys around him, better. And so we have to contain him the best we can. And we have to be patient in things. And he's just a powerful guy, and he's fast. And so if he breaks a tackle and he's gone, so you always just he makes you pause, and he slows you down, and we want to play fast. And but stopping him is not even possible. Again, except if he graduates. If he gets hurt, that's not, graduating is nicer. So please graduate. But he's really he's a heck of a player, and he's fun to watch if we're not playing him, and so. It's going to be a fun game because there are a lot of fun athletes out there.
Well, he's obviously an incredibly dynamic portion of their offense. They have also Tyrell Martin and Joey Sonnenfeld. This requires a balanced defense from you, I would gather, in the way that you build the defense itself.
Mm-hmm. We have a defensive philosophy to where, we've got a great base, and then we've got a structure out of that base that can handle those things, but. We've got to pay special attention to Sonnenfeld. He's got, 2/3. He's got, probably 70% of the completions are to Joey, or at least the attempts and stuff. And so, obviously, he's a heck of an athlete and a great player, and they've got a neat connection. And then, and I think that Tyrell Martin has been a big boost for them. I really like to watch him play. I don't know him personally, but I'm going to meet him Saturday. If I can find him after the game and tell him that I like how he plays, even if they win. But he's good. He's really a good player, and he's really he's been a neat shot for them. So they're really a diverse. I'm not a big stat guy, but I know that they have like a lot of yards. You know what I mean? And we just need, as usual, we need to be who we are. And we'll have Andrew Dezurek playing quarterback, and that's kind of a neat thing where he's a senior. He gets to be back in there. That's the one little thing where it feels kind of a neat thing for him, as far as Trey's injury is not there's nothing really. We know in the long run it's good, because that's the promise. But one of the little things is that Andrew gets to lead the team this week, and our guys love him, and he'll do a great job. And so, Marshall Klitsky, and there's kind of just a fun mix, and really is a chance to have a fun game where, it's always do or die, because some people say if you talk to a coach or his family and you say it's just a game, don't do that. So it's not just a game, but this one's as close as there is to where, hey, let's just go and let her rip, you know what I mean?
I would gather you'd be happier if it wasn't 62-61, though. Not a big.
Our defensive guys would be pretty. They'd be pretty sad about that, because there's there's a lot of pride in what you do, and hopefully it's good pride. It's got to be measured a little bit, but if we won 62-61, I'd be fine. I like winning, and I don't know if that's an affliction or anything else, but I want to win the game. But we really do. We're not kind of kidding. We want to play well, because you do this. You work toward obviously you work toward winning, but you work toward playing well, and giving your gifts away for free, and all these kids. We don't have any kids on our team that aren't good. You know, they don't all get to play, but they're not. But everybody's a pretty good player, and so kind of putting that all together, it's an important piece.
I'm not. Heading to our fan questions this week, we first of all begin with a couple of questions about your Chicago Bulls. Jack from Chicago would like to know, if Derrick Rose has not played very well early on, do you think he will return to form?
Boy, you know, my son, if my son listens to this, he's going to kill me. But the jury's out on Derrick for me, and I want him to do really well. He's a Chicago kid and all those different things, but I don't know if he's. I don't know. I mean, it's just you know, maybe Jack can help me, and even Tim, the big Bull fan, can help me coming up here. But I'm kind of conflicted. I feel like he's a Bull and and he's a Chicago guy, and then other times I don't. I think he feels like he's selfish, and other times it feels like he's not at all. And I can't really figure it out. And the injuries have really kept him from being such an amazing, you know, just an amazing talent. And I love Jimmy Butler, and I love the guys that are just complete players, that defensively and, you know, offensively. Obviously, that's kind of what that's the goo-goo part of it. But the guys that give their heart to defense and toughness, that's what I like. And I just don't know if Derrick is that guy.
Talking about Tim from the big Chicago Bull fan, he asked, Derrick Rose seems like he doesn't want to play for the Bulls anymore. Do you think the Bulls would be smart to keep him?
I don't think if he doesn't want to play for us anymore, then I don't think we should keep him. But I don't know that that's true, you know. And I know that, you know, money becomes the big thing there, and you know, that's the cool part about college sports, is that, you know, it's not so much about the money. I know that there's a lot of programs that have everything and some that don't have quite as much, but that's not what it's all about, you know. And sometimes with the pros, you know, even with the Hawks and with the salary caps and all those things, I think that's part of the intrigue. At the same time, you know, growing up, you know, the loyalty, Ron Santo and Don Kessinger, Becker, you know, all those Cubs from the 60s and 70s. And, you know, I kind of like it when people stay, you know, and there's a loyalty to the teammates and to the fans and to the city. And I think we miss that in pro sports a little bit. So I guess I don't know. I'd have to know his heart, but I don't think I'd want, you know, especially in Chicago, I would think it would be a fun place to play. I would think that if a guy doesn't want to be here, cut him loose.
Seems like a town, too, that always is behind a player who wants to work hard and play for them, too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, big shoulders. That's why Cutler's tough to enjoy, because he doesn't seem like the, you know, Windy City of the big shoulders type of dude, you know.
Yeah.
But maybe he's coming on a little bit here, so.
Our next couple of questions are related to hockey, since you were interested in that last week. We had a couple of people who stepped up with this. First of all, Henry from Plymouth would like to know, Patrick Kane is such a talent, but seems to put himself in some bad situations. Do you think he needs to swallow some of that bad juice, Coach?
Boy, you're not kidding. I think that Patrick Kane, you know, he probably needs Jesus and a kick in the hind end. And, you know, I think that sometimes when you get a little bit, you know, we elevate these guys to incredible status. I do think he's just an amazingly fun guy to watch. And, you know, he's in bad situations. I'm sure he's done bad things. And, you know, one thing that's hard for these pro athletes is that everything kind of gets, you know, pushed out in the public, you know, more than anybody else. And so, you know, everybody's a mess, but Patrick seems like he might be more of a mess, because he's either stupid because he keeps getting caught, or he really is putting himself in bad situations. And I think that Henry's got a great point here, is, you know, who you hang out with is going to mark your life. And, you know, it seems like when he's not hanging out with those guys and that have some character in the room, the Hawks call their locker room, he gets into some trouble. You know, when he's hanging out with Taze and Seabrook and some of those guys, it seems like there's a little better control. And so, I mean, I can't know anything, but I just think that he who walks with the wise grows wise, and he who's in the company of fools is in danger, like Proverbs 13:20. And so, but you have to pick the wise, so Patrick needs to pick the best people in the best situation and give good juice.
It seems like sometimes these guys, either they don't bring in people to be around them that are will tell them the truth about things, or they're afraid to hear the truth about things at times.
Yeah. And we're all like that on a smaller level.
True.
It's like I don't want to hang out with someone who's going to, tell me that I'm all wrong. But we're kind of called in the Psalms to, Lord, see if there be any wicked way in me and search my heart. And every time I do that, I can't get very far because he shows me stuff. And so, so I avoid that verse, and you got to not if you can. And that's part of being a man and growing up. So hopefully Patrick can grow up and we can enjoy him more.
Absolutely. Ian from Minneapolis would like to know, do you think the Blackhawks are solid enough on defense to take the cup again?
That's a good question, Ian. But here's the deal with the Blackhawks, and my son is a crazy Chicago and mostly Blackhawk fan, and so I get a lot of info from him. And if I'm negative, he wants to pound me. But I'm nervous. I think they can win the cup. I'm not sure they can get to the playoffs, and that's what I'm a little concerned about. And that could be the defensive piece there. But the West region, or whatever you call it, is holy mackerel. There's a lot of great teams in there, and so kind of fighting through that thing. But the Hawks, they know how to do playoffs, I've noticed, and they're really talented. So I think this stuff, if they make the playoffs, I think what they're going through right now, trying to find those defenders, is really good for them. I feel like the same thing with our football team. It's kind of a crazy deal where we're we got a lot of young guys. We're going to be a sleeping giant because we've had these injuries this year, and we're fighting through, and some guys that we may have never even found have really stepped up, and they're young, and they're going to be really, really good. And so there's an excitement there, and hopefully that's going to happen with the Blackhawks.
It seems they always make us a big trade deadline deal, too, to kind of shore themselves up just at the right time there as well. So
yeah, and I think everybody does that, but it seems like the Hawks guys always work out, and so I don't know if that's front office or if that's I really like the Hawks coach, Quinville, he obviously cares a lot about his guys, but he doesn't mince words with he's kind of old school, not crabby in a bad way, knucklehead, but kind of sharp. But his high expectations mixed with high love is pretty obvious, and he's an intense sucker, and they've got a healthy fear of him. I think all the millionaires are scared of the little guy with the red face.
Absolutely. Heading on to football, Dan from Arden Hills would like to know, that shot on Teddy Bridgewater seemed really cheap. Do you agree?
You know what? I really that's a tough one because I'm both ways on that. Jeff Fisher is a former Bear from the '85 Bears, and Coach Zimmer is from my old neighborhood. I know them both, and they got in a fight. Fisher'd win, but I think that if you watched it again, when I watched it live, I thought Teddy, slid fairly late, and I think the guy was in the air, and I do know that I wish that he would have got off a little bit. So yes, it was cheap. It wasn't as cheap as you kind of think, because you can see on the replay that Teddy got his concussion from his head hitting on the ground, because he came in there, he was in the middle of his slide, he wasn't all the way down, the guys whatever hit him, and I really agree with Coach Zimmer on I really struggle with the defensive coordinator for the Greg Williams guy. I struggle with that guy with what he did with the Saints and stuff, and I just don't. We want to hit and we want to be physical, we want to rock people, and but I don't really want anybody to get hurt, and so I think cheap stuff is tough. So. I think it was cheap. I don't know if I'd say really cheap, because I'm not, in the midst of that's, you don't realize. I mean, I go crazy because I'm on the sideline of our Division III games, and I can't believe the speed. You know what I mean? And so when you take it up about 36 levels to the NFL, You know what I mean? And to make a decision that fast and then to call it cheap, you know, I mean, you don't really have time to hurt someone real bad. You know what I mean? So I think everyone can have an opinion on it later, but it's you know, part of the deal, and you know, he takes his punishment, but you know, you gotta go on from there.
It's easy to criticize, I would gather, but hard to understand because of, you know, you're seeing it from the speed. You understand what that speed is like, so.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy, and you know, we get used to it watching on TV and stuff. But these are the best. These are the best courageous, crazy athletes in the world, and they're all nuts. You know, I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Our next question comes from Paul from St. Paul, who would like to ask, do you think the Cubs would be better off going after David Price or Zach Greinke?
Boy, I don't know. One thing I do know is that I'd like, you know, if either one of them come to the Cubs, I'd like them to be able to throw to first, to pick a guy off. I'm not the biggest Lester fan in the world. I know that he's a gritty guy and all that stuff, and I do love how Greinke has reinvented himself. Kind of, he's a fastball guy who did all these things, and then he was phenomenal, and then he was just good for a little while, and he reinvented himself, and now he's throwing 92 instead of 95, and he's as good or better, which is pretty cool. So I like Greinke that way. I like Price. You know, he's got a close relationship with Madden. I think he's a competitor too. So I like him about the same, but kind of in different ways for different reasons. I don't know if that makes sense, but how about both? Let's get both of them, Paulie, and then you know.
The one thing I've liked about Greinke in particular was that this was a guy who was having a lot of anxiety about being in big, you know, he played in Kansas City at first, which didn't have as large crowds, and then was really struggling, but got past that, overcame that. I thought that's really gutsy guy.
That's really fun. Yeah, that's really a neat thing to fight through, and we all do that, you know, in our little ways. You know, he's just doing it on such a big stage, but that is, I really kind of admire both of them. And, you know, going back to some of those other questions, when I think I would want whoever would want to be in Chicago the most.
Absolutely.
Because I really think that's huge, and I think that's what the Cubs have right now, is that the Cubs love being Cubs. Wrigley's a phenomenal place. The city loves the Cubs, and, you know, so I guess I'd want whoever wants to be, you know, if it's all about money, and I understand that they got to do all that money crud, but you know, I think it's a blast when whoever wants the Cubs the most, that's who I want.
Excellent. Our last question comes from a guy seeking your advice here, who is identifying himself as guy needing some help to find Miss Right. For us young men out there who need a little help, how did you ask your wife out on your first dates?
I asked my wife out. We knew each other forever. She couldn't stand me. I guess I was a jerk or something, but she's a little bit younger, and we were planning. We were put in charge of planning a New Year's Eve party at the church, and for the young people. You know, we're like 20 years older, so we're both in college and almost done. And so we had a date for like Monday after, and then, you know, by the time we got to Monday, we'd been hanging out, you know, like every day so our first date was like almost like later. But anyway, I'd probably be better at this because that was a long time ago. I've been married 35 years. Things are a lot different now. I guess I would, you want to be attracted to someone, but it's got to be a heart thing and somebody that you just want to be with. And I think we're just not courageous enough. You know, we had a talk with our team the other day about guard your heart, for it's a wellspring of life. It's really, really important that we guard that, especially against Satan's crud. But you don't want to overprotect it. And you know, you got to give your heart away. You find somebody that you can give your heart to, that you can be who you are with them. They'll refine you, don't worry. You know, they'll fix some of that stuff, but somebody who's not pretending is who I'd look for. And then just ask them out, you know what I mean? one thing, it's like I've been dating my whole life, because recruiting is a lot like dating. You know,
I bet.
ask guy, hey, do you like this? No, I don't like you either. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think you just got to be, be bold without being obnoxious, and be yourself. And if that's not good enough, then, that person can be your friend. So I don't know. I mean, sometimes it feels like when you're not so busy looking, you can find something, but you do have to put yourself in. You got to get out of your own little world, and look for someone else. And if you're looking for the perfect one, you're not going to find that. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us this week, Coach.
That's fun.
We want to thank Coach Johnson for joining us on Quick Slants this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Bethel coach, please send them to us at stevejohnson@minorleaguesportsupport.com. That's Steve Johnson at minorleaguesportsupport.com. Please have your questions to us by Tuesday afternoon so we can give the coach a little time to review them before recording the show Wednesday morning. We want to thank you for joining us this week. I'm Rob Paneer, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Quick Slants.